And we share our book, and we're here. And we're live on YouTube, which is great. All right. So we're supposed to be starting now, but we're going to give a few seconds for everyone to enter. All right. I'm just looking at we have one more class left. Before we finish our course, and we have a few more assignments. So we're going to do 2 today, and hopefully on the 3rd. Yeah, we're going to do 2 on the 3rd. And for the courses that I have next week, they'll do their own thing. And on the 10th, they'll do their own thing as well. All right, everyone. I think most of us, well, not most of us, but we have enough people to do our next part in our class. Most of us are supposed to be here now. I'm not sure where everyone is. I already shared our link and our YouTube link, and I already let everyone know that we're supposed to be here, but I guess some people haven't seen it yet. That's all right. So we're going to do family history. This is listening number 2. And we have vocabulary, which is always the first thing that we're going to do. Here are some words from listening 2. Read the sentences, circle the answer that best matches the meaning of each bold word. So we have a matching, everyone. And what we're going to do is that we're going to answer this matching. Let me see if I can make this a little smaller. How many questions does this matching have? It has 8 questions. So we're going to do this matching very quickly. We are supposed to read each sentence. Then we are supposed to choose the answer that best describes the word that is in bold, that I highlighted. For example, our assignment is to search for information about where our grandparents were born. I'll go to the library and you check online. So what does search mean? Does it search look does it mean look for or write down? So we're going to do I'm not going to do this with you right away. I'm going to give a few minutes. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Um, yeah, 5 minutes. And then after those 5 minutes, we can do 6, 7, and 8 together. Vamos a hacer este marcar con X, everyone. 5 minutos y revisamos. All right. For the people who are just entering, we're doing this multiple choice. And during these minutes, we have a few minutes left. Like, this is vocabulary for our second listening. So please complete this multiple choice. All right, everyone. I think we've had enough time, so we are going to check. Um, no escuchas, Tati. Let me see. Testing, testing. One, two, three. Testing, testing. Okay, I think Chris can. Ahora sí el internet está malo. Yeah, the internet today is very strange. I am supposed to have good internet. Es que creo que ya dijo ese momento en el que no estábamos hablando. All right. Yeah, I thought so too. Igual el internet hoy está un poquito extraño. So let's check, everyone. Number one says, our assignment is to search for information about where our grandparents were born. I'll go to the library and you check online. What does search mean? Look for A or write down B. A, look for. Yes, you are correct, everyone. Evelyn's brother was a slave in Georgia. He ran away to Canada. What does slave mean? A person who is free, or B, a person who is owned by another person. B, yes, you are correct. A slave is a person who is owned by another person. Um, Number three, our school library has an electronic database with the titles and authors of all of the books in the library. You can look at it online. What is a database or database if you're if you like pronouncing it that way. A book of information, A, or B, information organized and stored in a computer. B, that's right. Information organized and stored in a computer if we're talking about an electronic database. Then we have number four, which is Richard's career is a very important part of his identity. His work really shows his personality. What does identity mean? A, who or what someone is, or B, someone's physical appearance. A, that's right, A, very good. Who or what someone is. Then we have number five. Some of Ron's ancestors on his mother's side of the family came from Italy in the 1880s. What are ancestors? A, relatives who lived a long time ago, or B, aunts and uncles? A, that's right, relatives who lived a long time ago. Now we're going to do 6, 7, and 8 together. So for number 6, and let me see if I can make this bigger. So for number 6, we have, we need input from everyone on the team to do the job well. Ethan, what do you think? What is input? Ideas and information, or B, computer files? A, ideas and information. Very good, everyone. Number 7 says Alfredo was never an active participant in class, so most students didn't like being in his group. He did not like to practice speaking. What is participant? A, someone who teaches a class, or B, someone who takes part in something? B, that's right, someone who takes part in something. And finally, number 8. The city keeps records of all the people who were born or died there. People file and keep track of them all. What do records mean? Files of information or discs with music on them. Remember that this is according to context. So, in the context of the sentence, what do records mean? A, files of information. Very good. We can refer to music discs. That's right, we can refer to music discs as records as well, but not in the context of the sentence. Yeah, in the context of the sentence, records actually refers to something different. Records in this sentence means registros. Well, if I say, oh, I love listening to this record, it means music discs or album. All right. So now that we have our vocabulary, remember, we're going to need this later on. So records, participant, input, ancestors, identity, database, slave, and search. Each one of these important for our activities later on today. We're going to do listening number 2. Now, this is going to be about family history. You are going to listen to a lecturer describe how a group of famous African Americans used DNA to learn more about their family history. The lecturer explains how the information affects their identities. Write 2 questions you would like to ask about your family history. Now, I'm pretty sure each of you is going to have something a little bit similar or a little bit different. It depends. But I want each of you to think of at least one question you would like to ask about your family history. At least one. Quiero que todos me escriban al menos una pregunta que les gustaría hacer sobre su historia familiar. Everyone do one question, solo una pregunta para hacer listening number 2. I'm not going to give an example porque puede ser que alguien ya quiera utilizar lo que yo voy a decir o alguien se le va a ocurrir mi pregunta. Entonces no voy a dar un ejemplo, pero sí quiero que piensen en una pregunta. I want you to think of a question. Solo una. El libro nos está pidiendo 2, pero solo una that you would like to ask about your family history. Y cuando la tienen, please write it in the chat. Es difícil, sigo pensando. Don't worry. Think about it. I want each one of you to ask at least one thing. Piénsenlo, piénsenlo. Voy a escribir una que sería mía personal. Esta sería una que yo tendría de mi historia familiar. Were my great grandparents Panamanian? Algo que siempre me he preguntado. Creo en pues all right, Gabby has a few questions. How hard was their life? And what would they change about how they lived? Very interesting. I would like to ask that as well. Los demás, what would be your question? All right, Brian has another one. What has been the best time you have spent as a family? Very good question. Very good question. I believe we are only missing Tati, Jason, and Crystal. So whenever you're ready, guys. Hopefully sooner than later. Oh, we have two more. What is the hardest decision you ever had to make? Very interesting question. I'm pretty sure that's going to have different answers depending on which part of the family history you're choosing, or maybe similar. We don't know. Um, know how my grandparents' parents died? All right. Yeah, that could be an interesting question. It could also, well, it could be that they don't know, but if we were talking about family history, you can ask anyone in your family history about the death of your family members in the past? All right, Chris is writing. We're almost done with this preview, and then we're going to move on to our first, well, not our first, but our second, excuse me, our second audio. Never mind. All right, all right. So we're going to move on to our audio number 2. Audio number 2, which is, of course, about this specific topic, which is family history. If you haven't made your question yet based on what you would like to ask about your family history, don't worry. Just write it and put it in the chat, and we'll read it later. But for now, we're going to go back to our Listen to Main Ideas section for the second time. But this time, we're going to do a video, of course. We are going to listen to a lecture, and we are supposed to check the statement that best states the main idea of the lecture. So we're going to listen to the whole thing once, and you are supposed to check one of the 3 ideas that we have on screen that best states the main idea, or that has the main idea of what the lecture is about. And we have 3 options. We have number 1, family history is necessary to really know who you are. Number 2, our genes and our family history form a part of our identity, but they don't tell the whole story. And number 3, some participants were surprised to discover how many of their ancestors came from places other than Africa. So I guess we'll get context for that later, but let's listen to this lecture first.
Listening to Family History.
Oh my God, we have an ad right here.
Ideas.
There we go.
Page 82. At one time or another, everyone asks the questions, who am I? What makes me, well, me? As some say, we search for our identity. Part of our identity, of course, comes from our family, our present-day family, and from our ancestors, our grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and so on. From these people, we inherited our hair, skin, and eye color, our height, and even our personalities. However, some people have little information about their ancestors. For example, the ancestors of most African Americans came to America as slaves. There are very few written records of their family history, especially before they came to America. For this reason, historian Henry Louis Gates recently used DNA to study the family history of several famous African Americans. Participants in the study wanted to know what part of Africa their families came from. Who were their African ancestors? Putting it as simply as possible, a DNA study of family history works like this. There is now a large database of DNA samples from people all over the world. When a person gives a DNA sample, it is possible they will find a database. Scientists will find another person, or people, with the same markers in their DNA. This means they share a common ancestor. They are, therefore, part of the same family. DNA makes it possible to study hundreds or maybe even thousands of years of a family's history. The results of Gates's study of African Americans were surprising. For one thing, everyone in the study discovered that they had some white ancestors as well as African ancestors. For example, Gates found that he was actually 50% white. In fact, some of his ancestors were from Ireland. Some participants were a little uncomfortable with this mix of black and white. They always thought of themselves as black. They asked, "Will this change my identity? Will others see me differently?" Others, like comedian Chris Rock, welcomed the information. He felt it helped him get a more complete picture of himself. Another person in Gates's study, author Bliss Broyard, had a different experience. Everyone in her family looked white, but her father actually had African American ancestors. He told her this just before he died. Her DNA showed that she is almost 18% black. However, she says, being black is not a result of DNA tests. It's experiences and the way that you've lived. I feel that I'm sort of a cousin to blackness. I haven't earned the right to call myself black. Gates's study showed that identity is not just a simple matter of DNA. DNA plays a part in it, but our life experiences are also important. As one person said, we are all a mix of input from different people at different times. Each of our stories is the human story.
All right. So,
Listen for
what is the main idea of this lecture? 1. Family history is necessary to really show who you are. 2. Our genes and our family history form part of our identity, but they don't tell the whole story. And 3. Some participants were surprised to discover how many of their ancestors came from places other than Africa. What is the main idea, everyone? Profe, logré conectarme de nuevo. Awesome. Awesome, Maria. Number 3, maybe. Number 2. All right. Indeed, it is number 2, everyone. Our genes and our family history form a part of our identity, but they don't tell the whole story. Es decir, nuestros genes y lo que está en nuestra sangre es parte de nuestra identidad, pero no cuenta la historia entera, ¿no? Because our experiences are also really important, and the way we live and are perceived by society are also important. So I would say number 2 is indeed the main idea of this lecture. Now we're going to listen to this again, and we're going to listen to details. So let's see if we can make this smaller. Oh, there's only 4 questions. Awesome. All right. So we have read the questions and listen to the lecture again. Circle the correct answer. So the questions are, number 1, what is one reason that some African Americans have little information about their family history? And we have 2 options. We have, what new tool did Henry Louis Gates use in his study of the African Americans' families? I think we can answer this without listening to it again, right? I think. Do you have the answers for these ones, guys? Or do we listen to this audio once more? 1A. What is one reason that some African Americans have little information about their family history? Their ancestors came to America as slaves. Yes, you are correct, Gilberto. And what about number 2? What new tool did Henry Louis Gates use in his study of the African Americans' families? 2B, DNA. That's right. It was DNA. I've always found the difference between the acronym for DNA in English and its counterpart in Spanish. It's always interesting. Where did some of Henry Louis Gates' ancestors come from? A, from Ireland. Yes, you are correct, Brian, from Ireland, which is surprising, which was surprising to many. And number 4, which person in the study said that he felt now has a more complete picture of himself? Was it Henry Louis Gates or was it Chris Rock? If you know who Chris Rock is, this should be a simple answer. Chris Rock, B. Yeah. Well, not only knowing who Chris Rock is, but also knowing that Mr. Henry was the one that did the study himself. So it was obviously going to go to Chris Rock. And he mentioned at the end that, in effect, he felt had a more complete vision of himself. Now we're going to work on our vocabulary skill, which is word families, verbs, nouns, and adjectives. Hopefully, we're going to finish this quickly. Word families are groups of words usually based on the same root or head word. When you learn a new word, try to learn different forms of the word at the same time. You can often find word families listed together in dictionaries. So we have adopt, which is the verb, we have adoption, which is the noun, and we have adoptive, which is the adjective. So whenever you are learning a word in English, remember that it's very possible that it belongs to a word family. So try to find the different versions of the word, which are, of course, part of different grammar structures and grammar um, positions in a sentence, such as a verb or a noun or an adjective. So let's complete our chart. We have complete the chart with other forms of the words. Use a dictionary to help you. So we're going to complete this chart. And we have to look for the noun and the adjective version of coincide, differ, identify, and tend, which are all verbs. So please look for the noun and the adjective form of each one of these words. We're going to do this. You can use a dictionary, of course. And we're going to do this in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, everyone. 5 minutes, and we check. All right, everyone. Let's see if we can check this out. So with the example that is already finished for us, we have participate, participant, and participatory. Now we must do coincide. What would be the noun for coincide? The word that we've already seen today. Coincidence. That's right. And our adjective? Coinciding? Not exactly. Coincident. That's right, Gabby. Coincident. So we have coincide, coincidence, and coincident. So those are our three terms. Now we have differ. Differ, what would be the noun? Noun coincidence and adjective coincident. That's right, Maria. Very good. Difference. And our adjective? Different. That's right. So differ, difference, and different. Identify. Identity. All right. And what would be the adjective? Identical or identified? Very interesting. I would say both work. Both work when it comes to identity or identify. Um, I would prefer identified rather than identical because I do think that they mean two different things. So it would be identify, identity, and identified for our three ones. Identical could work, but not as well as the other ones. And finally, we have tend. What is the noun for tend? It doesn't have an adjective. Tendency. That's right. Tendency. Very good. Now we're going to do this very small complete, and you're going to help me out. Complete each sentence with the correct word from activity A. Use a dictionary to check your answers. All right. So the first sentence says, I can't identify the person in this old photo. Is that my grandfather or his brother? Number 2 says, everyone in my mother's family has A or N space. To be very thin. It's in their DNA, I guess. Everyone in my mother's family has a what? Coincidence? Everyone in my mother's family has a coincidence to be very thin. It's in their DNA, I guess. Uh, it's all right, but I'm not sure if it sounds as comfortable as I wish it would. Vengo llegando a mi trabajo here. Important. Don't worry. And everyone in my mother's family has a tend? Hmm. Are you sure it's just tendency? That's right, tendency. Everyone in my mother's family has a tendency to be very thin. It's in their DNA, I guess. That's right, tendency. Tend, no, because you can't own a verb. I can have run. I only have tendency. So if you own something, you own a noun. You can't own an action. Number 3, my sister and I are very space from one another. I'm blonde and blue-eyed, but she has dark hair and brown eyes. My sister and I are very, very what? This is an adjective, right? Different. Very good. Different. That's right. My sister and I are very different from one another. I'm blonde and blue-eyed, but she has dark hair and brown eyes. Number 4. Amy was a or n space in the study group. She thought she thought the experience was worth her time. She was glad to help. Amy was a what? Participant. That's right. Amy was a participant in the study group. She thought the experience was worth her time. Very good. And finally, I was on the bus the other day. I ran into an old friend I haven't seen in years. What A or what N? I didn't know he lived near me. Coincidence. That's right. What a coincidence. I didn't know he lived near me. Very good, everyone. Very good. Hopefully, everything's clear so far. We are now going to go into our speaking skill this time, which is grammar. So, auxiliary verbs in questions. This is our speaking ability. Most questions in English are formed with an auxiliary verb, sometimes called a helping verb. This is true for all tenses. The basic pattern in questions is auxiliary verb, subject, and main verb. This is true for yes or no questions and for information questions that begin with question words. Study the examples in the charts. Note that in the simple present and simple past, the main verb is always in the base form. So, something that I have always said, algo que siempre he dicho en mis cursos de gramática, si alguno de ustedes ha estado en uno de mis cursos de gramática anteriormente, es que toda pregunta en inglés va a tener la presencia de un auxiliar, que el auxiliar va a decirme en qué tiempo está la pregunta y también déjame saber qué es una pregunta, porque los auxiliares no los utilizamos cuando damos oraciones declaratorias, ya sea positivas, bueno, en oraciones positivas no los utilizamos. Toda pregunta, ya sea de sí o no o de información, va a llevar un verbo auxiliar. Always. Lo que confunde a las personas es que los verbos auxiliares pueden tomar varias formas y pueden ser distintos. Tenemos did, is, did y do, que en esencia son el mismo verbo auxiliar, nada más que do está en presente y did está en pasado. Is, que es el verbo ser o estar. Recordemos que is no está solo, tiene a am y are. Ahí en este recuadro podríamos escribir am y are si cambiamos el sujeto. Y tenemos does, de nuevo para el verbo do, pero con un sujeto distinto. Can, para todas las personas, el auxiliar poder. Did, que sería el pasado de do y does, que es igual para todas las personas. Y do, que es como la forma más común o más popular porque es la del presente simple. Y ojo lo que nos dice el recuadro. El recuadro dice, note que en el presente simple y en el pasado simple el verbo principal siempre está en su forma base. Es decir, que en el pasado y en el presente indistintamente, como lo tenemos acá, who did Frank look like, por ejemplo, que es una pregunta en pasado, observamos que look like está en su forma base. Did, en la primera pregunta, did Frank's adoptive parents have other children? De nuevo, el verbo principal queda en su forma base. ¿Por qué es esto? Por lo mismo que he explicado desde los comienzos de los tiempos. La presencia del auxiliar va a decirme a mí en qué tiempo está la oración y qué es una pregunta. Y si la presencia del auxiliar me dice a mí en qué tiempo está la oración, entonces, ¿para qué voy a poner el verbo en pasado si ya yo sé que la pregunta está en pasado por el did? Los verbos normalmente en preguntas están en sus formas bases. Just like have, searching, agree, mean, explain, look like, help. Well, searching no, pero searching es ing. Pero en cuanto a todas las demás, no es que yo pongo el verbo en pasado cuando estoy en la pregunta en pasado, no, por algo está el auxiliar ahí. The auxiliary is always going to be there if we're going to make a question. Ese auxiliar siempre va a estar ahí si es que nosotros vamos a hacer una pregunta. Si es de sí o no, va a comenzar con ese auxiliar. Si es de información, entonces le ponemos una palabra pregunta antes, como qué, cuándo, cómo, dónde, por qué, what, how, when, who, where, why, y así sucesivamente. Write yes or no questions with these words. Y vamos a practicar el escribir preguntas, ¿no? Observen el orden, el cual es el mismo. Verbo auxiliar, sujeto del cual trata la pregunta o a quien va dirigida la pregunta. Un verbo principal, su forma base, y el resto de la oración, que normalmente es un complemento que puede tomar cualquier forma, dependiendo de lo que queremos preguntar, ¿no? Entonces acá, lo que vamos a hacer es que vamos a... Where are we? Where are we? Vamos a escribir preguntas de sí o no basado en las guías que tenemos acá. Por ejemplo, we have they, say, lo cual es presente, college at school. Entonces, si están presentes, ya sé que mi auxiliar va a ser do o el verbo ser o estar. En este caso, no puede ser el verbo ser o estar, porque no tenemos no me funciona con lo que yo quiero preguntar en sí, lo cual es del verbo estudiar. Es usted estudiar, no me funciona, por ende, we're not going to use el verbo ser o estar. Vamos a utilizar un auxiliar convencional sin ningún tipo de traducción, como lo es do, que está en presente simple, a como se me indicó entre paréntesis. Do, de nuevo, el verbo, el sujeto del cual trata la pregunta, they, verbo, su forma base, study y el resto de la oración. Biology at school. Ahora, we're going to do number 2. We have your grandfather come, y dice que esta pregunta está en pasado. Here from Spain in the 1900s. I think this is a yes or no question. Creo que es una pregunta de sí o no, porque ya la pregunta nos está dando bastante información. ¿Cuál sería la cuela de? ¿Cuál sería el orden de una pregunta como esta? ¿Con qué comenzaría una pregunta como esta? Si sabemos que está en pasado, y eso es una pregunta de sí o no. Si es una pregunta de sí o no, va a comenzar con el auxiliar. ¿Cuál auxiliar está en pasado? Did your grandfather come here from Spain? That's right. Very good, Gabby. Did. Eso mismo, Gilberto. We have did, mi auxiliar en pasado, sujeto your grandfather, verbo en su forma base come, y el resto de la oración. Here from Spain in the 1900s. Easy. Observan que lo único que hacemos es agregar al auxiliar y acomodar el resto de la oración. Que muchas veces el verbo que está acá da igual, lo único que nos va a dejar saber nosotros, lo que está entre paréntesis, es en qué tiempo vamos a poner el auxiliar, pero no el verbo como tal. Porque come quedó igual y study quedó igual en el ejemplo. Lo único que me dijo ese present tense es que tiene que utilizar do. Y lo único que me dijo este past tense aquí en la segunda es que tengo que utilizar did. En la tercera, ojo lo que es la pregunta. Andrew have a twin brother. Y es en presente. It's in present tense. What do I ask? ¿Qué pregunto? Does Andrew have a twin brother? Yes, very good. Does Andrew have a twin brother? De nuevo, auxiliar. En este caso, does. ¿Por qué does? Does porque estoy hablando en presente y does porque estoy hablando en tercera persona. Andrew es mi sujeto, él. Por ende, we're going to use does. Does Andrew have a twin brother? Very good, Gabby. And finally, he want, y esto será en presente, to go to Ireland next week. Does he want to go? Very good, that's right. Does he want to go to Ireland next week? Y observan que en cada una de estas preguntas el verbo principal quedó exactamente igual. Want, have, come, study. Todos, excuse me, quedaron iguales. Y es precisamente porque estamos trabajando con auxiliares al inicio de la pregunta. We're working with auxiliary verbs at the beginning of the question. That's why it stays the same. Now we're going to write information questions. Ahora vamos a escribir preguntas de información. No se preocupen por el cambio. El orden es exactamente igual. Vean esa primera. Aparte del why, el orden es el mismo. Did, mi auxiliar. Henry Louis Gates, mi sujeto. Use, mi verbo. Quedó igual. Same thing. Lo único que voy a agregar es una palabra pregunta que ya me la están dando acá. Entonces, en la segunda, how you find out, y esto está en presente, about your family history. Sé que mi pregunta va a comenzar con how, ¿no? Porque si es de información, va a comenzar con un término de información, pregunta de información, palabra de información, como how, que es cómo. How, y de aquí sigue el auxiliar. ¿Cuál auxiliar voy a usar? ¿En qué tiempo está esta pregunta? En presente, ¿no? ¿Cuáles eran mis auxiliares para presente? Do you remember? Tengo varias opciones acá. Yo puedo preguntar. Yo voy a escribirlo acá en el chat. How do you find out? That's very good. Gabby, that's very good. How do you find out? También puedo preguntar. How can you find out? Cualquiera de las dos está bien. How do you find out? How can you find out? Dan a entender lo mismo. How do you find out about your family history? How can you find out about your family history? Who, your son, look like? Y esta pregunta está en presente. ¿Que a quién se parece tu hijo is what we're trying to ask, right? How would we make this question? Who does your son? Very good, Chris. That's right. Who does your son look like? De nuevo, who, palabra pregunta, does, auxiliar, que corresponde a el sujeto. ¿Cuál sujeto? Your son, es decir, he, look like, mi verbo, sin nada agregado. Y finalmente, why Magda search for her biological mother. Y ojo que esta es un poquito distinta porque aquí ya no es simplemente present or past. This is present continuous. ¿Qué llevaba el present continuous, everyone? ing, very good, that's right. Por ende, ese ing debo agregárselo a una parte de esta, a una palabra dentro de esta pregunta. Pero primero busquemos cómo acomodarla. ¿En dónde acomodaríamos nuestro auxiliar y cómo? Recuerden que el presente continuo requiere no solamente de ing, pero también de otra cosa. Why is Magda searching for? That's right, searching. Excellent, everyone. Ojo por qué lo hicimos de esta forma. Why is Magda searching for? Lo hicimos así porque recuerden que para formar el presente continuo no solamente es primordial el ing. El ing no puede estar solo. Debe existir la presencia del verbo ser o estar. Es decir, is running, are eating, am watching y así sucesivamente. Cuando yo formo una pregunta con el verbo en presente continuo, el verbo to be del presente continuo se convierte en mi auxiliar. Por ende, why is sería el auxiliar en este caso, Magda mi sujeto y searching mi verbo. En este caso el verbo no va a estar en su forma base porque es presente continuo y debo agregarle ese ing. Why is Magda searching for? Y observan que el orden es al revés. en lugar de decir is searching for, Magda is searching for, digo is Magda searching for, porque esto es una pregunta y en las preguntas en el inglés les damos la vuelta al sujeto y a mi auxiliar o a mi verbo principal de la oración, como gusten verlo. Pero en efecto es, why is Magda searching for her biological mother? Would be the end of that question. It says work with a partner. We can skip this, we don't have time, and also not relevant to what we are going to do. We have pronunciation, intonation, and questions with or. So, en la pronunciación, algo que se les será evaluado en las siguientes actividades que hagamos, some questions offer the listener two choices. The choices are usually connected with the word or. These questions usually have rising, falling intonation. This is true for both yes, no, and information questions with or. Cuando nosotros tenemos preguntas opciones u ofrecemos dos opciones, la entonación de estas preguntas va a ser primero en subida y después en bajada. Y va a estar la presencia del or, que significa o en español. So I'm going to ask, are we just born that way? Or is it the influence of our families? ¿Escucharon? Are we just born that way? Y sube mi entonación. Or is it the influence of our families? Y baja. Cuando yo tengo una pregunta en donde ofrezco dos opciones o doy dos enunciados, dos cláusulas, como gusten observarlo, y las uno con la palabra or, la primera entonación o primera cláusula va a ser con entonación de subida y la última cláusula va a ser con entonación de bajada. Por ende, sería, is the woman in the picture your sister or your cousin? See? So we rise intonation. Is the woman in your picture your sister? Y subimos. Or your cousin? Y bajamos. Does your the same food as you? Are you your mother? Once more. Subo your mother, to your mother, y bajo, or your father. Now we're questions, and we're going to repeat them using the intonation that you hear. Van a escuchar una su prioridad. Me repitan cada una de estas entonaciones desde que les diga. Please repeat after me. Micrófonos algunos los activados para hacer una repetición coral como si estuviésemos en presencial. But I want you to help me. And to help yourself. Tanto es que me ayuden a mí, es que se ayuden a ustedes mismos, es técnicamente lo apropiado que decir, ¿no? Please repeat after me. Do you look more like your mother or your father? Do you look more like mother or your father? Which do you think is more important, your DNA or your life experience? Repetimos, ¿ya o cuándo? Do we have to repeat? Yes. Yes, you do. You have to repeat after me. Do you have to activate your microphones? That's your decision. Your decision, but you do have to repeat after me. Which do you think is more important, your DNA or your life experience?
Which do you think is more important, your DNA or your life experience?
Which do you think is more important, your DNA or your life experience?
Was the meeting a coincidence or plan?
Was the meeting a coincidence or did they plan it?
Was the meeting a coincidence or did they plan it?
Do you spend more time with your friends or your family?
Do you spend more time with your friends or your family?
Did you spend more time with your friends or your family?
That's right. Thank you very much, everyone. Now we're going to move on. Please remember this intonation. It is so important for your speech, which is the unit assignment that we have for today. Remember to do this. Remember it, please. Okay, we have ask a partner the questions, practicing the questions with the correct intonation, then write 2 or more questions with or practice saying them. Oh no, I'm afraid we don't have time for all that. Let's see how much more do we have to look at. Oh, we're almost done. I think we're good. I think, well, if all of us could activate our microphones, that would be. Teacher, I have to go now. I have to go too. My baby has an appointment tomorrow at the children's hospital. Oh, that's all right. That's all right, Chris. It's justified. Don't worry. And don't worry, Gilberto. I know that you guys have to go. Have a good night. You guys, please drive safely. Take care.
Thank you, teacher. Have a good night too.
Awesome. And everyone else, we're going to. Bye bye. You're welcome. Sure. And everyone else, we're going to do the last activity, and then I'll tell you what our assignment is, and we can go. All right? Bye. Good night, Chris. All right. So, última actividad. Les cuento cuál es nuestra asignación. Les recuerdo, bueno, tenemos 2 asignaciones para hoy. Voy a dejarlos con una hoy para lo que estaremos haciendo en base a esta unidad. Les dejo una preparatoria para la próxima unidad y la próxima clase ya sería nuestra última, ¿no? Entonces, la próxima clase haremos una última actividad de wrap up. Entrego nuestros promedios y vámonos. Si se están preguntando, teacher, where are our grades? ¿Dónde están nuestras notas? Ya para el día de mañana deben estar esas notas subidas en el campus. Les recuerdo que algunas veces el aula virtual no carga sus trabajos. Por ende, si ustedes hicieron una grabación de un audio, si hicieron el documento Word y lo subieron, por favor revisen que se pueda abrir dentro del aula virtual. Si por alguna razón ustedes entran a ese documento y les aparece archivo no encontrado, así es como me va a aparecer a mí cuando yo tome mi chancecito, bueno, ahorita cuando salimos de clase y el día de mañana para revisar. No pasa nada, simplemente es que el aula no lo cargó en su momento y pues, ¿qué se puede hacer, no? La alternativa sería que ustedes me lo envíen por correo. Ahora, si el archivo es muy grande, entonces ahí se hablan conmigo. No pasa nada. Simplemente quiero que revisen, asegúrense de que se subió. Si aparece el documento, entonces cero problema, debe aparecer cuando yo lo reproduzca. Si aparece como archivo no encontrado, así me va a aparecer a mí. Envíenmelo, a mi correo si así es el caso. Si no saben cuál es mi correo, lo voy a apuntar acá en el chat. Algunas personas muchas veces se confunden un poquito cuando les digo que no se cargó. Profesor, pero yo lo entregué. De tomar a un Gmail. Profesor, pero yo lo entregué. Sí, yo sé que lo entregaron. Aparece entregado para mí. No es que les estoy diciendo que lo entregaron. Aparece entregado. Dice que se subió. El asunto es que algunas veces por nuestro internet, nuestro dispositivo, nos pueden jugar una mala pasada y el aula registre a medias lo que usted en un momento intentó subir. Y que cuando nosotros, tanto ustedes como yo, intentemos abrir lo que supuestamente, entre comillas, aparece entregado, lo cual estoy seguro que sí, porque de otra forma, eso no puede ocurrir a menos de que ustedes hayan subido algo, aparezca como archivo no encontrado. Eso no es culpa de nadie, simplemente me lo envían a mi correo. Pero he tenido chicos que me dicen, profesor, pero yo lo subí, yo lo entregué a tiempo, ¿por qué me está culpando? No estoy culpando a nadie. Pero si no tengo esos archivos, no los puedo revisar y entonces, ¿qué hacemos, no? ¿Qué hacemos? No hacemos nada. Revisen eso, por favor. Igualmente, si no tienen chance de revisar, profesor, usted me está pidiendo que revise algo y yo estoy muy cansada a estas horas, tranquilos. Yo cuando llegue a su trabajo, si no se entregó y usted no me lo ha enviado al correo, entonces yo le envío un mensaje. Compañero, compañera, envíame tu trabajo número tal, asignación tal a mi correo. El aula no lo registra en su momento. All right. Últimas speaking skills. ¿Cómo es nuestra opinión? Our book says, when you express opinion, you also when you're another person's opinion. Look at these examples. Es súper importante que tienen la tendencia de usar lenguaje declarativo o lenguaje declarativo para hablar de todo, inclusive cuando es una opinión. Si estamos expresando una opinión, debemos señalar que es una opinión con un término previo a la opinión. De otras formas, puede ser que nos encontremos en una situación un poco incómoda, ¿no? Oh, opinion, opinión, por ende usted tiene que in my view, for me, I feel that in the writer's opinion, tanto cuando doy una opinión mía como de alguien más, ¿no? Estos señaladores son sumamente importantes. Desde mi punto de vista, en